All right, day two of Advent of Code. I'm done about 30 minutes after the the challenge ended, or the challenge started. Sorry. I thought I did way better than I actually did, finishing it in 30 minutes. I definitely went slower in a lot of different parts than I would have liked, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But let's look at the stats. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see. Switchovers real quick. So at first I was like, oh, cool, I finished that super fast. Let's look for my name in the top 100 leaderboard. Weird, it's not there. Let's go to the leaderboard, look at our personal stats. Zero score. I finished 7,869th on the part 1 and 7,965th on part 2. So I am not near as good at this as I thought that I was, but I did finish it. I finished it in about 30 minutes. So that's neat. Let's take a look at the solutions. So this is day 1. Let's open up day 2. Day 2. So we set up a camp, we're playing rock, paper, scissors, and we've got an input file that looks like this with different values. So I'm going to explain why I'm saying different values here in a second. So in part 1, we're going to assume that the first value, the ABC, is what your opponent is going to play, and the second value, XYZ, is what you are going to play. So you can calculate whether or not you win based off of those two values, and you're going to get different scores per each possible outcome and per each value that you chose. So it explains over here in the prompt. So you get different scores for different choices. So you get 1 point for choosing rock, 2 points for choosing paper, and 3 points for choosing scissors, regardless of whether or not you win or lose. Now, if you lost, you get 0 points extra. If you get a draw, you get 3 points extra. And if you win, you get 6 points extra. So, right off the bat, ran into issues actually importing the file. So lesson number 1, go ahead and put some of the templated stuff in there. So this one right here, like this is never going to change, and make sure that you put your input in the right folder. That was another thing that costed me like a couple of minutes. So basically make sure that you've got these like, basic lines like reading from a text file in. So here's where we get to the first assumption. My first assumption is that I did this in the least graceful way possible. And the reason why I say that is I've just got a ton of if statements instead of doing this in any other graceful way. Right now it is 11:30 my time, so I'm tired and I did not want to think of the graceful way to do this. And that's going to be a problem that I run into quite a lot. So basically what this is doing is it's running through the winning conditions, the drawing conditions, and the losing conditions. This was just making sure that I iterated through every possibility. So I already know that in part 2, I set it up a little bit more gracefully. Basically I nested the if statements instead of making it like the ands from before. So may not be more gracefully, maybe more gracefully, I don't know. So basically this is saying if I won, so these are all of the conditions in which I would win. If the opponent chooses rock and I choose paper, then I get the winning points plus the points for choosing paper. So I'm not going to explain every last one of these because the logic is kind of there and you can kind of understand it if you read over this code, which is on GitHub. I forgot to talk about that in the last video. I'm putting all of the solutions up on GitHub. Obviously, spoiler alert, like, duh. But yeah, if you want to like actually see this code, then it'll be up on GitHub, and I'm going to include a link to this video in the README for the GitHub as well. So explains it all in detail there. Now, part 2 throws a little bit of a curveball. Basically, as the story goes, like the elf walks off in the middle of explaining it to you and just basically explains what column 1 means, and you assume that column 2 is what you pick. In reality, what column 2 is the outcome of the game. So if the opponent, elf, I think you're playing against an elf, if the opponent chooses rock and the outcome of the game is you lost, then you choose paper. That's just kind of, no, you choose scissors. So that's just kind of like the logic that's set up there. So really the logic, I mean, it doesn't stay the same. You just kind of have to restructure the way that you think about it. So if the result is X, so here's one of the problems that I ran into. I misread the prompt like 3 different times. Read the prompt carefully. Basically, I thought that X was going to mean a win. Instead, X means a loss. So as you can see, I actually wrote it down wrong. And Z is a win. So basically, the only thing that I actually got right off the bat was a draw. Let me actually go ahead and commit that change. Git add. I'll just do git commit dash a dash m fixing typo in comments. And just go ahead and push that. Don't ask why I'm having to use the GUI to do the pushes. I will explain that probably never because it's embarrassing. Okay, so that's the winning conditions right here. And it's actually the losing conditions. I'm not going to push another change there. Okay, so if it's a loss and the opponent chooses A, which is rock, then I've got to choose scissors. If the opponent chooses B, which is paper, I've got to choose rock. Basically, the logic is similar, but you kind of have to change up the way that you think about it. Also, I changed up the structure of the code a little bit. I think it's a little bit more readable than this because you can kind of see, like, if the result is an X, then I lost. So I'm adding the loss, and then I'm adding the individual choice scores there. Okay, so you can read over the code on GitHub. Like I said, I'll include a link to it. It's all going to be organized by days. So every day I'm going to try to do this, try my very best. I obviously missed day 1 by several hours, and day 2 I was way slower than I thought that I was. But you can read it on GitHub. Lessons that I learned from day 2, read the prompt correctly, include the templated like basic code, like including or reading in your input files, just like right off the bat. Read the prompt correctly. Still sucks that I'm having to do this at 11 o'clock because of where I live, but you know, that's part of it. Yeah, basically I did a stream right before this on malware development, so I was kind of a little bit warmed up on Rust. I had already written some fairly complex Rust code before this, so I would probably recommend warming up. You know, kind of getting like your hands dirty, like maybe rewriting the solution to the day before. I don't know, something like that. It seems like y'all are enjoying these videos. I'm going to keep on uploading them. They're easy to make, you know, just fun code walkthroughs. So y'all take it easy. See you in the next one.